Do you see a degree of betrayal in Oakeshott, Windsor, and to a lesser degree Wilkie in betraying the majority vote in their electorates?
Well, look, with Wilkie, you couldn't have expected anything else. I mean, it was always going to go that way. I mean, he's an interesting character, to say the least. I mean, he goes into good faith in negotiations, and then asks for something when it's offered to him. He then goes out and criticises for making that offer. And so I've always discounted him. But I did think that common sense would prevail with the other two. You know, they are rural and regional seats, but at the end of the day, they're going to be held accountable by their own constituents. And I can tell you now, in my view, they're going to be judged very, very harshly for their actions. I feel very sorry for those people that have been sitting here. Yeah. I mean, Colin Riddell and his dugongs and turtles. You know, you're going to get more of the same, because they'll still fiddle around the edges. You know, have a look. I put another activist in as an environment minister. I mean, I've had a look at some of the letters here. I mean, I've got a letter in here that shows that either Garrett completely lied, or his department lied in relation to the dealings on the Marine and Tropical Science Research Facility. That's the sort of stuff that we're having, and we're going to get more of the same. Think of the people that have had to deal with the public housing debacle. Have a look at the threats that these people have on their businesses and their homes in the Southern Access area. I mean, people are going to wake up tomorrow knowing that there's a possibility that their homes are going to get washed out in the King Tides by Christmas in the Torres Strait, because all the Labor Party's going to do is spend some money measuring the tides. We're going to build the seawalls. And so, you know, when you start looking through at the Cape York community, I mean, at last they thought there was a hope. Have a look at the overwhelming vote I got in the Cape York communities. You know, for one, they stood up and they said, we're not going to let the Labor Party steal our vote. It was overwhelming. That vote in itself means that we have an obligation to reintroduce Tony Abbott's private members bill. And we'll see what Oakeshott's commitment is to Indigenous people when we introduce that bill, because he has every opportunity to vote with us. And I'll be looking for his support on it. So, quite frankly, I think, you know, there's a lot of disappointments there, whether it be Couch, whether it be the Institute of Tropical Health. There's a whole raft of things that were committed. The Fresh Food Initiative into the remote communities. They were not committed by the Apanipimas Medical Transport Initiative. Labor Party had 2.5 years to do that, and they ignored them. I listened to them for 5 minutes and I got it. I understood the need for it, and I had it as a commitment. The interesting one's going to be this cultural and sporting precinct, because the Labor Party made it very, very clear that if a Labor government was re-elected, there will be $40 million on the table. They didn't say if Jimmy Turner be re-elected, they said if a Labor government is re-elected. Well, they've just scraped in by default. They've done a bit of conning, they've done a bit of horse trading, they're in there. I'm expecting that $40 million on the table. On top of that is the $3.5 million as the first stage for Junior Rugby League at Jones Park, plus a $4 million for the ARL. They were additional commitments on top of the $40 million. If Labor got in, not if Labor won Leichhardt, if Labor won government, they have. Now, Val can play around as much as she likes with her volcano and all her other bits and pieces. But I can tell you now, the community overwhelmingly supports another concept. And I will be driving that concept, I will be supporting the community on that, and I will be expecting the federal government to deliver on the money. No ifs or buts. I expect that money to be on the table to allow us to start these projects without delay.
And in this dramatic political day it's been, how do you kind of review now that we know that a coalition government's not going to go in, how do you review the last 2.5 weeks?
Well, I mean, first of all, I would have preferred that we had an outright majority. And as I said, the voting up here was quite clear. People wanted a change. Make no bones about it. There's no ifs or buts. Nationally, the coalition won the most seats. We won the primary vote. We won the two-party preferred. We won the election. These guys have come in because they've always been aligned to the Greens. and of course you've got these other individuals. I mean, it's rather interesting that they've now got three there that, you know, they battled out strongly anti-Labor views, and now they're supporting the Labor Party. So, but I realised, I think, early in the piece that these guys were more focused on their battles in the National Party, I guess, rather than focusing on the impacts of a decision would make with Greens and Labor Party, because they hardly ever mentioned them. And they just continued about their own personal battles within the Labor Party. So, you know, to me, it's not about what's in the best interest of the country, it's about pushing their own personal agendas and, I guess, payback from their own party.
Windsor said his big clincher was the broadband deal for regional Australia. Do you think a government should have a place in building that kind of infrastructure?
Well, I think we should be contributing to it, but I don't think we should be doing it at the expense of existing stuff. I mean, the proposal that they're putting up means that there's going to be a very significant ripping out of existing infrastructure. I mean, all the copper will be gone, for a start. But secondly, he says he's focusing on regional Australia. I can tell you a lot of remote Australia, which is also in regional Australia, is going to miss out under the Leichhardt plan because they don't go there. At least with ours, while it was far more conservative in price, it was much more affordable. At least with ours, we had the opportunity of providing a hell of a lot more service into a lot more areas. See, they seem to conveniently forget. You see it. You see Windsor running around all the time with a mobile phone stuck to his ear. Guess who did networking to the nation? Guess who put mobile phones into the bush? It wasn't the Labor Party. He drives around in all these newly made roads. Who did the Roads to Recovery program, gave the local authorities in regional and remote areas more money than they ever had before to spend on roads. The same with the Bridge Renewal program. The National Heritage Trust, the largest amount of money ever invested in the environment in the history of this country. And yet there was no recognition or credit given for that. And they talk about two programs with no real understanding as to whether or not they're going to happen. I mean, it's just an absolute nonsense.
And you'd have to argue that the previous Labor government doesn't have a very good history on infrastructure building.
It's been absolutely pathetic, to say the least. I mean, if you have a look at it, they know how to kill people with pig bats. They've done that very well, including in our own area. They've sent a lot of legitimate businesses bankrupt because they've refused to honour their commitments. And have a look. I mean, I got a call today from from some people in in a retirement village, complaining about the fact that they're calling the police on a regular basis because they were promised by the Labor Party that there would only be elderly people moved into their units, into the public housing beside their aged care or their retirement village. And there's a whole swag of broad range young people in there. The swearing and the fighting and everything else is just destroying their quality of life, and there's nothing they can do for it. They're the sort of things that are being imposed on this community by the Labor Party. They've been a dismal failure. That's why this was the first seat called. But as I say, I mean, at the end of the day, we'll make sure that Senator McLucas rolls the swag. We'd like to see her sell a house in Lynham and come back and actually live in the community. And I'll be reminding people every day the fact that she won't be taking lattes in some comfortable coffee shop in suburban Canberra. She can come and live back where she's elected to do.
So priorities for Warren Entsch MP for Leichhardt after today?
Well, this next week I'll be moving into my office. I expect I'll be getting sworn in the next couple of weeks. I will prepare a comprehensive list of all of those commitments that we made during the campaign and a few extras that I've come up with since then. I'll be putting it up on a board somewhere, and I will be holding and I'll be ticking them off as I achieve those. And I will be holding the Gillard Green Labor government totally responsible, and I'll certainly be reminding those people of the issues that we're facing in regional and rural Australia and how we got to the situation we did. But there's no way in the world I'm going to back off.